Welcome to Ken's Corner Podcast, Season 2. It's time. Are you ready? Now here we go with your host, Ken Judge.
Hi, everyone. Today, this is Ken from Ken's Corner, and I'm here with my special guest, John Bullard. He is the owner and operator of Chicagoland Championship Wrestling, which is CCW, Southside Strong Style. How are you doing today, sir?
Ken, I'm doing quite well, actually. It's the weather here. It's about 41 degrees right now, so it's not too cold, and the sun's up, so I can't complain. Life is going okay.
That's great. Thank you for saying that, sir. It's not so bad here today. I think we're fair, and we don't do the same style of measuring as you do, but I believe we're sitting at a balmy +2 today, if that means anything to you. Okay, we're going to jump right into our interview today, sir, if that's okay for you.
Absolutely.
I would like to know when and where CCW was formed.
Well, long story short, I guess. I started out in the wrestling business back in 2001. I was a teenager. And throughout the years, I've worked in the wrestling business as either a professional wrestler, manager, commentator, play-by-play announcer, you name it. I pretty much done the job. Uh, 2012, I started my first wrestling promotion. It's called Pro Wrestling Freedom in the state of Kentucky. And from 2012 to 2014, I helped develop a lot of great young talents that are now seen on television today. And I took a long needed break away from the wrestling business. I guess I kind of needed one of those break away from lives. Sometimes you do something for so long, you get kind of burned out and you just kind of don't want to fade out, but sometimes you have to fade away from it to really grow a appreciation for what you've done in the past. So from 2014 all the way up to 2018, I was away from wrestling. And I actually had no plans on coming back to the wrestling business. So what happened was I moved from Kentucky to up here in the Illinois area, and me and my wife was living up here, and a good friend of mine, Tony Myers, who wrestled all over Japan. He's been everywhere. He actually introduced me to a very good friend of mine. His name was Christopher Martinez. We always call him Gravestone because he played in a rock band. Well, Chris wanted to be a professional wrestling referee. And forever, he would call me on a daily basis, just asking me for my advice on stuff, what a referee should do, how would he conduct himself in certain situations. And so, almost on a weekly basis, I would talk to my good friend about what to do. And next thing I know, he's going into training and he's starting to referee and he's doing a great job. Well, one day he messages me and he said, "Hey, there's a show coming up in this area and they need a referee." I said, "Well, that's great, Chris. They got you." And he said, "Well, the thing is, they need another referee." Now, mind you, the last time I refereed was in 2009. So I had like no interest ever doing a referee job again because I was like, look, I'm old, I'm getting worn out. That's just no. Well, sure enough, Chris talked me into it. And so I showed up and started refereeing. And I seen all this young talent, and a lot of them didn't have mentors. A lot of them didn't have someone to watch over them and guide them on things that would benefit them. So I went out that night and talked to a lot of the younger guys and was giving them advice, not only about just wrestling, but life advice in general. And well, from there, I guess, as we say it, it's like the old mafia thing, you try to leave it, and sure enough, they pull you right back into it. And that's what happened. During that time period, Chris was complaining heavily about his back issues. And I was thinking, okay, maybe he's pulled a muscle, maybe he's just, tiger bomb, something would help. Well, found out through his doctor visits, he actually had stage 4 cancer. He had tumors on his spine. So
Sorry to hear.
I miss my friend. But to explain Chicagoland, how this all came about, I have to tell this story. So Chris would start his radiation treatment. Now, one thing about Chris Martinez, what made him an extremely tough human being, but also one of the most inspirational people I ever met. During his battle of cancer, he never cried, nor did he ever feel sorry for himself for having it. He saw it as his purpose in life to try to do his best to survive it, but also inspire people around him to go out there and keep doing what they were enjoying. And he would still paint in his hospital bed. He was an amazing artist. He would do magazine covers for a lot of like old pulp magazine types. So
Really
he would
cool.
actually he would paint the portraits and stuff, and was just an amazing artist. Well, during his chemotherapy rounds, we would play the game guest booker to keep his mind off of going into chemo. So we would create a promotion, and we would put together the roster, and we would put together the shows, and I would teach him how to book. And through that creation of that game, we created a company called Chicagoland Championship Wrestling. And the goal was to find the hidden gems and the talents that are not being seen out in the world and give them the opportunity. But how would we do this? How would a show go from point A to point B to point C to the big final show? And so through 2 years of him going through cancer, we would play this game almost on a weekly basis. So 2020 comes rolling in, and I tell Chris, you know what? Let's take this idea from this game and turn it into something in real life. So we did, and it became an official company late 2019, going into 2020. And sure enough, during the 2020 year, as bad as COVID was, what made it worse was Chris lost his battle to cancer. So, October of 2020, we had our debut show, and we dedicated it to Chris. And every show we've done has always been dedicated to Chris, to Chris's memory, because without him, there wouldn't be a Chicagoland. So, the story of this company is literally a tribute to a true friend.
That's truly amazing and very inspirational, sir. My condolences on the loss of your friend.
I appreciate that.
Now, I want to actually speak about a upcoming show that you have May 21st, and it's at the world famous, um, how do we say it, Brywind Eagles
Berwyn,
Club?
Berwyn Eagles, the Berwyn
Berwyn
Eagles,
Eagles,
famous.
and that is world famous. Can we talk about that? And actually, I want to talk about I am Canadian, so I want to talk about the Canadian content that day of the Canadian champion Magnum McLaren.
Absolutely, be glad to. So the Berwyn Eagles Club has been the staple of Chicago wrestling scene. Gosh, almost I'd say about 30 years. It's legitimately a wrestling venue. It's of course the Eagles, and I think you guys even have that in Canada as well, like the Moose Lodges and so forth. But
Yes.
our Eagles Lodge and Berwyn is dedicated to professional wrestling. When you walk in there, their walls is literally covered in autographed photos of all the well-known wrestlers that has performed in that building. And I'm talking from the Brian Danielsons, the Claudio Castagnoli's, Chris Heroes, Sasha Banks, Bailey's, Becky Lynch back when the days of Shimmer was running that building. All these performers have wrestled under those lights. And there's a wrestling ring
Impressive.
upstairs for training, and there's a wrestling ring there in the ballroom for the main shows. So for us to be part of that legacy now, part of that building's legacy, what an honor. You know, I never thought in a million years that would become our new home. And I'm really glad it is, because that town and the suburbs of Chicago is a wrestling town. There's 4 or 5 promotions that runs that building. But what's so impressive is that every show brings a different crowd. It's not the same fans like you see every single night. Oh, okay, he's the same person. As always, the Lucha crowd brings in certain fans. The 1 or 2 American wrestling promotions that go there, they draw in a mixed crowd. of fan followers. And
Yeah.
it's great because that town supports wrestling. It's hard to find a good town sometimes that really gets into professional wrestling, but this is a part of the city that it's ingrained in their culture. There's grandfathers who have brought their sons, and now their sons are bringing their sons to this venue to see wrestling. Same seats that they sit in when they were kids. And to see that is such a wonderful feeling because it's part of people's history, not just the building's history, but it's part of the community's history of professional wrestling and the excellence of the competitors and talent that has wrestled there over the years.
Yes. Now, can we speak about? I believe it's a 6-man match with Magnum McLaren on that
Absolutely.
night.
So we're partners. I'm the co-president of the World Organization of Independent Wrestling. It's very similar to what you call the old school style of NWA, where promoters work together. And this show, Project X Wrestling out of Ontario, is going to be giving us the opportunity to present their champion, Magna McLaren, a 16-year-old Canadian wrestling prodigy, third generation, the grandson of the great Malenko. The original great Malenko was one of Bret Hart's favorite wrestlers. Uh, to actually defend his Project X heavyweight championship, the Canadian heavyweight championship, on that show. And the competition that he's going to be facing is quite fierce. He has another teenage prodigy named Kid Lat, who has been tearing up the scene really well. He's 17 years old. He literally had some great training from our champion, Chris Logan, the Chicagoland Grand Champion. But also, he spent time with Lucha Libre icon Skyday, who has taught him a lot of Lucha Libre holds and counter holds and submissions. So he's very well trained for being so young. On top of that, we have Ari Akuma, who is one of the best kept secrets in professional wrestling, the Matt Wizard of the Midwest. We have Sean Phoenix, a guy who literally cheated death to come back to have this wrestling career, have this resurgence in his career to travel and get this opportunity. Trick Davis, a man who has wrestled Claudio Castagnoli, Seth Rollins, Brennan Albright, guy wrestled in Ring of Honor, Shakara. He's been there, done that, and has a T-shirt to show it. Then we have a gentleman coming all the way from Finland by the name of Mikko Maestro from Slam Wrestling in Finland, making his Midwest American debut. And hey, what's the best way to debut than to actually go after a very prized championship belt held by one Magna McLaren?
Yeah, Magnum. He's got quite the contest that day. That he's got a lot of good people against him. I see, um, but he's always seemed to come out on top. As much as I sometimes don't like him, love him or hate him, Magnum McLaren is definitely a champion. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the results of that match, sir.
I am too. I think this is probably going to be one of the toughest challenges for him because it's hard enough to focus on wrestling one guy. But when you got 5 others coming after you, then it's like, okay, everyone has a different style, everyone has a different strength. Now, what is their weakness? And that's the thing he has to focus on. What is their weakness for me to beat these guys?
Yeah, I agree. I agree totally, sir. That I keep me updated on that and send out the info. We'll definitely share that on Ken's Corner podcast.
Absolutely.
Now, I want to know a little bit about your other Canadian companies that you've had partnership with.
Well, the other Canadian promotion that we are currently partnered with is Can-Am Wrestling out of Calgary, Alberta, Canada, run by my good friend Otto Gentile and a gentleman by the name of Ed Anderson. Both those gentlemen actually wrestled for Stampede Wrestling back in the late 80s. They were, of course, you wrestle for Stampede. That's that Hart lineage, the dungeon style that you have to learn and go through. And both of those gentlemen also run the Alberta Wrestling Academy, which has some fantastic wrestling students right now that are touring all over Canada, making a good name for themselves. They have one of the gentlemen that's, in my opinion, one of the best Canadian wrestlers that I've been seeing recently is a gentleman by the name of Jude Dawkins, the Cheetah Bear. And Jude's a fantastic talent. And hopefully, pretty soon, the fans here in Chicagoland will get the chance to see Jude live and in person to see that wrestling style that he does, but also the very much the over the top look that he carries with him. I've always been impressed with Canadian wrestling because of the style. It's technical, but it's also hard hitting. It's very smash mouth, almost like good Canadian hockey. It's like you know you're going to see something very flashy, but you also know if you make the mistake, this guy is going to put you through a board. It's just how it is.
Definitely.
So yeah, I've always been a big fan of the Stampede style of wrestling. The technical the work, but also the hard hitting style that comes with it. So yeah, Can-Am, Alberta Wrestling Academy, and Project X currently are our Canadian partners, and we're also looking forward to developing other partnerships throughout the provinces of Canada. I know Quebec has a really good wrestling scene that's currently going, with Jacques Rougeau and his training school that's going on. And of course, CWE with, Dugan running his shows. So it's Canada's got so much wrestling talent. It's crazy when people look back what it was like 10 years ago, where everyone's like, it's struggling. And now it's like, no, it's not. There's so many wrestlers now. And so many good wrestling promotions. Like Canada right now is thriving in wrestling, in my opinion.
Led by Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens themselves.
Yeah, the Sami Zayns and Kevin Owens, prime example of that scene. Definitely the Montreal, Quebec scene that has been producing workers. Of course, you can't forget PCO. PCO's been doing a fantastic job with waving the Canadian flag too. So, he's been doing great.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for what you said about our Canadian content. That's very nice of you. Now, I would like to know where we can find John Bullard's media outlets and CCW. Where can we find it if the fans of Ken's Corner want to look you up?
Oh, well, they have the IWTV app. They can actually watch us on IWTV. All of our shows currently are up on that network. We're also on Fight TV. Power 4, which is now, I believe, unfortunately out of business. They were showing our events in the United Kingdom and across all of Europe. They could also watch our shows on YouTube. Chicagoland Championship Wrestling. Just type that into the search field, and you'll see our content. And we'll post up match of the week or match of the month, so that way people get to see the contents. And of course, we'll showcase the other thing that's going on in the company. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and also on Facebook as well too. So all you have to do is just look up Chicagoland Championship Wrestling. You'll see it, or just send me a friend request, John L. Bullard on Facebook. And I'll be glad to keep all fans updated and informed. Also, probably the best way to follow us is go onto our website at www.chicagolandchampionshipwrestling.com. And that has all the sites. It also has our ticket information. We can buy tickets online. And also breaking news also is also featured on there.
Thank you so much, sir. And your company, Chicagoland Championship Wrestling, is built on something very inspirational from your friend. And I see success in your future. You're doing quite well down there in Chicago, sir.
Thank you, sir.
My name's Ken. Pardon me?
Oh, I was just saying, so thank you so much for that. The compliment.
Oh, no problem.
It means a lot to us.
Of course. We got your back up here in Canada. Thank you for having Magnum McLaren down there. We do love him up here. My name's Ken. My name's Ken, and I'm from Ken's Corner, and I'm here with Chicagoland Championship Wrestling, CCW Southside Strong Style owner, John Bullard. Thank you so much for joining me today, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Now, if you like what you see today, please hit subscribe. We are on YouTube now. Thank you, sir. You have a great day.